Hello again, humans. It is I, Jim the Ape, and today I want to talk about something that has been making its way around the internet, and lots of YouTubers that I subscribe to and listen to and respect have already done videos about this, but I would like to give my own personal take on it. Now, in case you don't know what I'm talking about, I will show the clip. If you know what I'm talking about, this may seem a bit redundant. But if you don't know, basically this happened at San Francisco State University, or SFSU, and it was filmed by a student. And what happened was a white student who happens to have dreadlocks was just going about his business, and apparently a campus employee who is a black woman took exception to the fact that he had dreadlocks and basically accosted him for what she claimed was cultural appropriation. Now, right off the bat, I would like to address my basic thoughts on the matter. Basically, cultural appropriation isn't really a thing. At least not when it comes to things like hairstyles and different styles of clothing. You see, as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't matter if the originator of dreadlocks, if the first person to have ever had a hairstyle that even resembled dreadlocks was of dark skin. It doesn't matter. It doesn't even matter if the first person to have dreadlocks was your great 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 ancestor. Because whether that's true or not, it probably isn't, by the way. Whether that's true or not, you don't own a hairstyle. Nobody owns a hairstyle. And I'll get into that more a little bit later. Let's show the clip.
You're saying that I can't have a hairstyle because of your culture?
Yes, that is what she's saying, unfortunately. But let's just take a moment to address the elephant in the room. Not you. Get out of my video. The elephant in the room, as far as I'm concerned, is that all three of these people look ridiculous. I'm sorry, I'm on the side of the white guy with the dreads. I don't think he should have been accosted the way he was, and you'll see that later on in the clip. But I honestly think he does look ridiculous with that hair. And the black woman who will accost him in this video, I know a lot of people think that her hairstyle, it's like an afro kind of thing. A lot of people think that that hairstyle looks fine on black women, but I personally think it looks ridiculous. I just think it looks poofy and cumbersome and just way too out there, way too hard to deal with in terms of just volume. It's just like a giant mass of hair on your head, and that just looks ridiculous to me. And thirdly, the guy who is apparently on her side, I don't know if it's her boyfriend or just a friend of hers or whatever, but the guy who is standing sort of in between them, a little bit back further, the guy with the high top fade, yeah, he looks ridiculous too. So from a strictly aesthetic standpoint, I can't take any of these three people seriously. But again, it doesn't matter, really. What matters when it comes to arguments is the merits of the ideas and the arguments that are being presented. So let's try to forget this circus show that is happening in front of us and just focus on the arguments, what is said, and particularly what happens in the video, the actions that are taken by this campus employee.
Why? Do you know it was in Egyptian culture? Are you Egyptian? Nah, bro, I'm not.
Are you Egyptian?
No, but it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter whether he's Egyptian or not. You don't own the rights to a hairstyle, much less exclusive rights to a hairstyle, just because your quote-unquote culture may or may not have invented said hairstyle. If you apply your logic to almost any other scenario, you would not agree with it. For example, if a black dude was walking around with his hair in the style of a mullet, which I don't know why anyone would want to have their hair in the style of a mullet, but let's just say a black dude is walking around with his hair styled like a mullet, and a white woman comes up to him and starts accosting him, saying that him having his hair like that is appropriating white culture. You would probably call that woman a racist, and you would probably tell her to check her privilege, because you think that historically black people have been oppressed and white people have been their oppressors, and white people have had historical privilege. So therefore, these two people in this hypothetical scenario who have nothing to do with said historical oppression have to adhere to your sensibilities of who can have what hairstyle. And the same goes for if a black person was walking around with their hair styled in a mohawk. If someone from the punk culture would go up to them and say, "You're not allowed to have your hair like that unless you're a part of our culture. Unless you like punk rock music, you're not allowed to have a mohawk," you would probably say something similar to that person. You would say that they were racist, or that they need to check their privilege, or that anyone can wear that hairstyle, and basically you don't own the mohawk. Because nobody owns the mohawk, nobody owns the mullet, nobody owns the afro, and nobody owns dreadlocks. But you see, you have this double standard, whereby black people can basically do no wrong, and white people can basically do no right. Because black people were historically oppressed, and they're a marginalized minority, so they can basically do whatever they want, and it's supposed to be for liberation or for lifting people of color up. Meanwhile, white people have to prostrate themselves and apologize for the sins of their ancestors and basically kowtow to your every whim just to get your measliest scrap of approval. And if that's not racism, then I don't know what is. But then again, you probably don't know what it is either, seeing as how whenever the subject of racism is breached when social justice warriors are around, they always say that it's prejudice plus power, and it can't be racism unless it's got institutionalized power structures behind it. And of course, they will never say that it can be such against white people, because according to them, white people have all the power and black people are always subjugated. But the bottom line is, you're ridiculous, social justice warriors are ridiculous, and almost every single time the accusation of cultural appropriation is made, it's ridiculous. And this one is no exception.
Where's Egypt? Tell me.
You know what, girl?
Where's Egypt?
Dude, go. You have no right to tell me what I can have. Huh?
Where's Egypt?
And there you see the first instance of the white guy with the dreads attempting to leave the vicinity, and the black woman trying to physically block his path and prevent him from doing so. Also, if I heard correctly, either he or the dude with the high top fade just said that Egypt is in Asia. And if that's true, then our education system is in bigger trouble than I thought.
Yo, girl, stop touching me right now.
Yo, girl, stop touching me right now.
And there you see her continuing to block him, and him saying to her, "Yo, girl, stop touching me right now," and she employing the brilliant rebuttal tactic of repeating those exact same words back to him in a mocking intonation. Surely the greatest of orators, Christopher Hitchens, Richard Dawkins, even the great Martin Luther King Jr. himself could not come back from such an utter verbal demolishing as that.
Get off of me.
Come back, come back, come back.
And now she proceeds to pull him back down the stairs that he was attempting to flee from this conversation. And I don't know if she's trying to be cute or if she's just being smug, but something kind of irks me about the way she keeps saying "come back" here, like with a big fat smile on her face. She's physically grabbing someone and like trying to pull them away from their escape route and back into a conversation that they're clearly not comfortable with. And she's just smiling. Come back. Come back. It's fucking creepy. Honestly.
You put your hands on me, you'll learn.
Like, you know, makes sense and shit because what the
And then, I don't know if you heard, but she followed that up with saying, "You put your hands on me, you gon' learn." And then he says, "Learn what?" And then she goes, "You gon' learn not to put your hands on me." Except she put her hands on him first. And the video clearly shows that she was being more physically aggressive because as a woman and as a black woman in a social justice warrior friendly PC university environment, I'm pretty sure she thought she could get away with it. But the thing is, the internet ain't a safe space, honey, so you're getting destroyed by men and women and apes alike.
hair I have, that's no reason, yo. I don't need your disrespect. I don't need your disrespect.
Why are you filming this?
Just for everyone's safety.
And then, after she discovers that this is being filmed, and the priceless look on her face that says, "I done fucked up, and this is going to be on the internet forever now, and I can't deny that this happened." After that, the mother of all ironic moments, she asks the person filming, "Why are you filming this?" To which they respond, "For everyone's safety." To which she responds by physically accosting the person holding the camera in an attempt to either stop them from filming anymore or perhaps to get the camera or the phone out of their hand to delete the previously recorded footage. And I honestly wouldn't be surprised if she was trying to do the latter. And that's pretty much the end of the viral video, but that's not where this story ends. You see, the white guy with the dreadlocks, whose name is apparently Corey Goldstein, did an interview after this video went viral. Now, I don't know the details about this. I don't know who's interviewing him, but I stumbled across this while I was looking for the original video clip. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play that interview for you, and I'll try to pepper in my own commentary here or there. Here's the interview that he gave after the incident.
I looked at her and she said, "Sorry, we don't want people with your hair here."
"We don't take too kindly to your types around here." Gee, that sounds awfully racist.
And I was like, wow, that's really rude. And I walked away from the situation. She then apparently followed me down 2 flights of stairs to approach me about this whole situation. And I tried to leave multiple times, and she wouldn't let me. She kept grabbing me, pushing me back, trying to make her point or something. I didn't want to talk or discuss the situation with her at all. I felt that I didn't need to explain myself, my hair, my rules, my body.
My body, my choice. My body, my choice. My body, my choice. It's funny, that's something that you would hear from a social justice warrior about something that's been legal for decades and isn't going to stop being legal anytime soon, regardless of how certain people may feel about it.
Someone within an activist group thought that she could attack me based on my locks, and that's not okay. It's not even part of the colored community's culture. It may be ingrained in it, but it's ingrained in so many cultures other than that. It's an Egyptian culture. It's in Viking culture. You'll see in Victorian culture that there is information about them having dreadlocks too. It's everywhere. It's not something that is just part of the colored community.
The homeless stoner has a point. And he brings up some good historical examples. Many different people from many different cultures around the world have had hair that looked like a mange-infested mop head. But you know what? The most famous person for having dreadlocks would have to be Bob Marley. And would the man who wrote One Love really be bothered if a white dude had the same hair as him? I don't think so. I think he smoked way too much weed to care about such trivial shit.
When people wear Native American headdresses, I feel like that is cultural appropriation, because that is something that solely is within their culture that they use for power, and only people of high standing within that community can have headdresses. And that would be cultural appropriation.
Well, I agree that that's a better example of cultural appropriation, if there is going to be such a thing. But I still think that people should be allowed their freedom of expression regardless. So even if a guy who is white as the driven snow wants to walk around in a Native American headdress, yeah, a lot of people are probably going to think that's disrespectful, but ultimately I think he should be able to do that. Like, my stupid dork of a pet human is a big fan of wrestling, and of lucha libre wrestling in particular. And he doesn't care if a masked luchador is actually Hispanic, or if they're white, or if they're black, or if they're Japanese, or whatever. All he cares about is, are they a good wrestler, and does he find them entertaining? He doesn't sit there criticizing all the non-Hispanic wrestlers and complaining that they're appropriating Mexican wrestling culture. He's just concerned with the athleticism and the spectacle of it, and the merits of each individual talent. So, cultural appropriation isn't so cut and dry, and it's not as prevalent, and it's not as important of a problem as social justice warriors would have you think that it is.
But someone having locks, which is found universally across the world, not just within African culture, but everywhere actually, that is not cultural appropriation in my view. The fact that I have locks does not mean that I'm trying to appropriate anyone's culture. It means that I love and respect their culture, and it's something that I hold true to myself. I feel like these differences are not something that separate us, but are something that should bring us closer together.
Or, it could just be that you like the way you look with that hairstyle, even though I officially don't. It doesn't have to be a comment on the so-called culture that is claiming ownership of dreadlocks. Like I said, nobody owns dreadlocks. Nobody owns any hairstyle. But it doesn't have to be a comment on that culture, nor does it have to be a comment on the different so-called races and whether it should be divisive or unifying for you humans. It doesn't have to be anything like that. It can just be that you like your hair that way. It's great that you try to turn it into like a positive message, and that's fine if that's how you feel about it, but you don't have to justify it that way. All you have to do is just say, I like my hair like this. Fuck you, I'm not changing my hairstyle just because you can't fucking handle it. Go to a safe space and cry. You fucking grown-up infant. You fucking child trapped in a 20-year-old body. Go fuck yourself. You don't have to color it that way, but that's basically all you have to say.
Hair tangles naturally. It is something that naturally will happen.
Does that happen naturally to your hair?
No. I'm not saying that it did, but at the same time, it's something that I wanted it to happen. Like, it does naturally happen to other people. Their hair will naturally dread. So those people that naturally dreads, is it okay that they have it? Dreadlocks are tied to cultures, but at the same time, there's also instances of dreadlocks not being tied to cultures.
In what cases?
Well, she just mentioned the Irish, but it's also like, I'm sure that anyone that has had tangled hair in the past that didn't have access to combs probably had dreadlocks. Cavemen, I bet you had dreadlocks.
When you're coming from a place of privilege and you're taking an element of somebody's culture that symbolizes something.
It didn't symbolize anything for her. I bet you if you asked her directly what dreadlocks mean, she would not fully know.
Okay, obviously I have to take exception with the interviewer spouting all that nonsense about coming from a place of privilege and taking an element of someone's culture that means something. That's pretty much bullshit. And it's ironic to me because the woman who was in the video, who had physically attempted to restrain this man, is probably one of the most privileged people that I can think of, at least in terms of at a university. Because she basically physically accosted, arguably assaulted another individual over a disagreement about hairstyle. And I don't know if she's going to receive any real repercussions for that. I don't know if she's going to be fired from her position at the university, whatever that position is. I don't know if she's going to have any criminal charges. Like, it doesn't necessarily seem like a criminal case, but I mean, maybe you could make a case for some like low level, like misdemeanor type shit. But for the most part, I don't think that she's going to receive any real tangible consequences for behaving in such an unbelievably self-entitled way. Like, the worst that'll happen to her is, yeah, she'll get shit on the internet like she's kind of getting in this video. But the thing is, despite what she might have you believe, that's not actually harmful. That's not physically harmful. No matter what I say about her, I cannot reach through the screen and physically cause any harm to her. And it's not harassment, because I'm going to make one video about this incident, and then I'm going to be done with it. I have absolutely no plans to make any more videos about this in the future. But then he goes on to say that if you asked her what dreadlocks mean, she wouldn't know. Which I kind of disagree in that I don't think they mean anything. It's just a way of hairstyle that, as he said, happens naturally. It's just basically long hair that is tangled in clusters. But it doesn't mean anything. Now, on an individual subjective level, you could assign meaning to it. It could mean something to you. It could mean like Rastafarian culture. It could mean like smoking weed. It could mean like a Bob Marley tribute. It could mean black culture. It could mean Viking culture. It could mean anything to anyone. But objectively speaking, it means nothing.
Why do you say that?
Huh?
Why do you say that?
Because it's something that a lot of people don't know. There's a lot of research. It's something that, like, it's not something that is common within African American culture. Like, it's not something that all across the board you will see that they believe in, that they cherish, that they like. It's something that they wear on their head. Like, it's something that is their hairstyle. Like,
Do you see it as a fashion statement and a hairstyle more so than a cultural icon?
I feel like it has both. I don't feel like it's one or the other. I feel like it has both. It can have some cultural ties, but it can also have like style ties, just like a bindi, you know?
And that's the end of the interview. I don't think I have any real objections to that last bit there. That's basically it. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope I've brought something to it that other YouTubers haven't, because I feel like I'm a little late to the party on this one. And hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. I always appreciate that. If you didn't, feel free to give it a thumbs down. I support your freedom of expression. And you can always give me your specific thoughts in the comments section below. And of course, if you like my content, subscribe for more. Anyway, that's going to do it for me. I'll catch you next time. Stay great, apes.